And I gotta tell you, when it comes to the TNA Impact Wrestling premiere on Pop TV, I have to be brutally honest. That's what you all have come to expect, as our motto has always been, keeping it honest, insightful, interactive, and we've been doing that now since 2011. Can you guys believe that? I don't know how many of you have been listening to the show that long, but since 2011, we have been doing this. And I have to tell you, I was a bit disappointed with the TNA premiere on Pop TV. It was pretty much like, what I had a hard time wrapping my brain around was the fact that TNA, they were off television for X amount of weeks, if you will, but at the same time, they kind of knew for a couple of months that their presence, as they knew it on Destination America, was going to cease to exist eventually. And they were trying to do what they could to make there be a nice smooth transition from one network to another network. I thought surely they were going to take this time to really regroup and learn from the mistakes that they had made when they were over on Spike TV, learn from the mistakes that they had made when they were on Destination America. And if they were put in a situation where they were going to be given another TV network deal, that they would come out guns blazing. And sadly, they did not do that with the first edition of Impact Wrestling. I mean, you had the show open up with Dixie Carter, like, go figure, in the middle of the ring, and she's got the TNA belt. The way she's holding it, she's kind of holding it like it's a freaking purse or whatever. And like, I just thought, for me personally, I just thought it was rather tacky. I don't know how many of you all had kind of got that same vibe, but like, when you like think about your respective favorite wrestling promotion, it doesn't even have to be a major wrestling promotion. It could be an independent promotion, but your favorite promotion, and it comes to like crowning a inaugural champion or whatever, whether it be first time ever that respective promotion is crowning a champion, or here they are, they're in a situation where some tournament is kind of like coming to an end and they're getting ready to crown a new champion. You're used to seeing some type of red carpet rollout, if you will, where the belt is showcased in a nice, pretty looking glass box or whatever, or some type of a wrestling legend, a veteran, if you will, is there talking about how they're getting ready to crown a champion, and that legendary wrestler is going to be the one to present the belt to that new champion. You're used to things like that, but it just came off so blasé from the moment that it opened up. Not to mention, you had the long, drawn out ass rundown of everything that had transpired over X amount of months, including the couple of weeks that TNA was off of television. And it's like, God, it's like we're live. It's like, let's get to the damn action right now. The wrestling fans that's there in attendance, they're ready. They've been anticipating this moment for quite some time. Let's have at it already. And I just didn't like the way things had opened up. As far as the matches go, the matches were pretty blasé. They were pretty weak. I mean, for this to be the very first Impact Wrestling of the new calendar year, to kick off 2016, the first Impact Wrestling on a new network, I was expecting it to have, all throughout the 2-hour broadcast, a big main event feel to it, if you will. And it didn't feel like that. It just felt like same old shit, just on a different channel. It's just, I don't know how many of y'all felt that way. I know there was probably a decent amount of you guys. I know there were a lot of you guys that I had spoke to that said, hey, TNA, they lost me with the whole tournament. It was a head scratcher. I'll check it out once the tournament is over. There were some of you that I talked to. You told me straight up you were pretty disappointed. Look, I feel exactly where you're coming from. I really, really do. And like, I'm also reminded that here you had the president of Pop TV who did interviews. One interview in particular, he reveals the reason why he went with TNA Wrestling as far as airing their programming on his channel. Basically, he's like, well, look, I saw the numbers that Impact Wrestling was able to do on Spike TV. They were able to get like over 1 million. And I think that would just be so beneficial to our network. And I see exactly where he's going. I think his whole deal is, look at what they did for Spike TV. If they can even come close to bringing those same numbers, matching it, or going a little bit over, it would put them in a situation where they would be able to maybe have a domino effect and introduce new original shows. After all, when you go back and you look at the history of Spike TV, they really started rolling in on original shows after a couple of years with TNA Wrestling. It was definitely very beneficial to both parties when they had that business relationship going. TNA and Spike TV, that is. So I can understand completely where the Pop TV president is coming from with regards to trying to tap into the TNA audience. But at the same time, you also got to say to yourself, well, wait a minute. Look at what was going on with TNA Wrestling before they had left Spike TV. Before they left Spike TV, if I'm not mistaken, I believe they were like just slightly under 1 million, right? Then they go over to Destination America, and they basically lost half their audience, right? 500,000 plus they had lost when they went over to Destination America. Now, a lot of people have made the excuse of, well, this is because Destination America, it's only seen in 60% of households. 60% is still a relatively good number. That's a really good number when you really think about it. But you know, it is what it is. And then we got people saying, oh, well, they really didn't get the type of promotion that they needed when they were on Destination America. I beg to differ. I watched the Discovery Channel. I watched the ID Channel. I watched the Oprah Channel, the OWN network. And I had managed to see spots for TNA Wrestling here and there. I think they had got a lot of love. They had got a lot of heavy promotion going on when they had came onto Destination America. A bit more than what they did on Spike TV. Now that I really, really think about it, they were given a lot of love. But honestly, I think what Discovery realized was that, you know what, they're not bringing in the numbers that we expected. And it seems like things are catching on with this paranormal activity stuff. Seems to be the trend nowadays. Look at what happened to that network. Okay? I understand where the Pop TV president is coming from, but I tell you, man, I think he is biting off more than he can chew. If he is looking at TNA Wrestling to be that saving grace, if you will, that's going to usher in the demographics that they're looking for to be in a position where they can bring in better advertisers, better revenue, bring in the audience needed so that they could try to focus on original programming. I hope I'm wrong, but I just don't think that's going to be happening if all they're going to do is try to bank on TNA Wrestling. Enough said. That's all I got to say with regards to that. But I tell you, I said it several weeks ago. I got to stress it again. TNA Wrestling, they got to excuse me, guys. They got to figure out what exactly are they trying to do and stick with that for a while? They're trying to get into the whole one night only pay-per-views. Now they're back into the whole pay-per-view thing. Now they're trying to get back into the whole touring, and just the way when you hear that, and you've been following the TNA product, you've been following the TNA news and all that, and you just think about where things are right now. Doesn't this sound like deja vu? Doesn't all this sound a bit redundant? I've been saying this off and on for the past couple of years, and I'm going to say it again until I turn blue in the face, which is hard to happen because I am African American. But look, TNA, they need to, if I was like in charge of the financial resources of TNA, if I was given control for one day of the company, but whatever I did in that one day would continue to be ongoing afterwards with the personnel there, one of the things that I would implement is TNA Wrestling pulling a move like basically with what Lucha Underground had did. They basically have found themselves a space to rent out, a warehouse or whatever, dressed it up, did the best that they could, did X amount tapings of shows there, and that was pretty much it. I would like to see TNA Wrestling do something like that. They have the money. Make no mistake about it. This is not a situation, I repeat, this is not a situation where TNA Wrestling, they're hurting for cash and, oh, well, we can't just quite figure out where we can have a permanent venue. Nothing along those lines. Okay? So let's just debunk that right now. They have the resources. They have the financial support to be in that position where they can get a permanent venue. And honestly, it would be nice to see TNA Wrestling tape like 2 shows, maybe 3 shows every weekend. They meet once a week on the weekends, tape 2-3 hours worth of shows, and then that's it. Don't put too much out there, because when you see, this is how they're doing it right now. Like, in just, let's say hypothetically speaking, TNA Wrestling, they come to, I'll say, give me a city. They come to New York City for 3 nights. They come Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. They say kickoff time will be 6 o'clock. Doors open at 6 o'clock. Or 7. 7. Let's go with 7. No. Let's go with 6. Doors open at 6. Show kicks off at 7. Maybe around 6:30, they'll do some dark matches or whatever, but pretty much 7, 8, 9, 10, they'll do about 4, maybe 5 hours of tapings. So they'll tape a lot of matches, right? And basically the way that they have it set up, they've got like 4 or 5 shows right there. So that's basically a month and a half. Then they come back the next day to the same venue, probably in front of the same crowd, do it again. So they keep doing this pattern where they're doing stuff, and next thing you know about, 3, almost 4 months in advance of what's going to be happening with the TNA product. Who's going to be champions, all that. They just need to stop all that. I say just be 2, maybe 3 episodes ahead. Work it out with Pop TV. See if you could continue to do live specials like once a month or whatever, or every 2 episodes or something like that. That would be kind of trendy, I think. That way you can stop the dirt sheets and all the other wrestling websites posting the spoilers out there. I don't know about you guys, but I know in today's day and age, it's kind of hard to, unless you just turn off your phone, stay away from the computer, it's kind of hard to go about social media and avoid spoilers at the same time. Now, I know there's some of you traditionalists that's out there like me that if you're trying to enjoy something and you don't want to hear no results, you're going to do like me and you're just going to stay the hell off any and everything that's social media. But, you got some people, they play the Russian roulette, and honestly, you shouldn't get upset when you find out spoilers to your favorite movie, TV show, or whatever. This day and age, it's really hard to avoid spoilers. You just gotta be antisocial. Like I said, stay off the damn things, alright? But that is definitely one of the things that I would implement. Another thing that I would implement, I would get rid of John Gaborik, alright? This guy, let me tell you something. I paid attention, and I don't know how many of you guys had checked this out on YouTube. I thought it was a very, very riveting, very insightful look into what all was going on in TNA Wrestling during his tenure there. But how many of you guys had checked out the latest edition of Vince Russo Nuclear Heat? Now, granted, everything that he is saying is his outlook, his interpretation, how things had went down in his eyes. But there is definitely some merit to a lot of the things that he had said on the latest edition, where he basically went in depth about his time there in TNA, what led to him being let go from the company, to him coming back to the company to work as a consultant. And he pretty much had talked about how he got along with a lot of the folks that were already there. He talked about how he tried to bring in Bruce Pritchard. He kind of saw the writing on the wall. He kind of had in the back of his mind that bringing Bruce Pritchard on board could come back to bite him in the ass, but it was a risk that he was willing to take. And sure enough, Bruce Pritchard would eventually become his boss, as in the mix of all of that, Eric Bischoff had came into play. Originally, it was explained to Russo that Bischoff was just going to be there to basically handle creative for Hulk Hogan when he was there. But soon, in the blink of an eye, so to speak, Eric Bischoff was ultimately Vince Russo's boss and Bruce Pritchard's boss. So basically what would happen is Vince Russo and his team of writers, they would write the script for TNA Wrestling. They would then hand over the paperwork to Eric Bischoff. Eric Bischoff would make all his red marks, no suggestions, supposedly, send it back to Russo and his team. They would try to do what they could to revise it, and at the same time, please Eric Bischoff. Well, Russo got a little irritated with always butting heads with Bischoff, thus enter Bruce Pritchard, and eventually Bruce Pritchard coming into power. Bruce Pritchard would basically be the middleman between Russo and Bischoff. So, Russo and his team of writers, again, they would do whatever with the script for Impact, give it to Bruce Pritchard. Bruce Pritchard would then give it to Eric Bischoff. Eric Bischoff would put his red markings, hand it back to Bruce Pritchard. Bruce Pritchard would then make his notations of what should be done on top of what Bischoff had said. Russo and team would edit it, and then it would go back to Pritchard. Pritchard would make one last revision, send it back to Russo. Russo make the revision, make the request that Pritchard wanted, give it back to Pritchard, and then Pritchard gives it to Bischoff, and then boom, you got a show. Russo was just sick and tired of that whole freaking process altogether. So he just said, you know what, forget this, and he just pretty much rolled out. As far as he was concerned, there was too many cooks in the kitchen. And he noted that the one thing that Spike TV loved, that they loved tremendously, was working with Eric Bischoff, because remember, eventually Eric Bischoff had became executive producer. And for you guys that don't really understand the whole executive producer role, they're basically that middleman. In this case, Eric Bischoff was the middleman for TNA Wrestling and for Spike TV. So When Spike TV had any questions, concerns, if there was something that they wanted implemented, the network would let Bischoff know. Bischoff would then let the team of writers for Impact Wrestling know. And that's how basically everybody meets common ground, if you will. All right? So the best thing as far as Russo was concerned was Spike TV. They loved having Eric Bischoff as executive producer. But apparently, John Gaborick, he was the one that ultimately had sent Eric Bischoff home. As John Gaborick, no experience in the world whatsoever. I've heard many people talk about this in the past. But John Gaborick, no experience as a talent relations specialist. No expert when it comes to handling the on the road touring and all that. He's given all this enormous power. And as far as Vince Russo was concerned, Gaborick being put in that position is what ultimately had set up TNA for failure on Spike TV. Then you look at what had went down with Destination America. And then you just think about a lot of the people that left TNA between Spike TV to Destination America. I shouldn't have to name the names. I'd be here for several minutes mentioning the names, but there was a lot of good people that rolled out, whether it was by choice or they were let go. To the point, latest TNA released Manic, if I'm not mistaken. You hear that, you're like, wait, what? Yeah, they released Manic, aka TJ Perkins. I thought that was like a very weird move. I thought he was a pretty damn good wrestler. He was better than some of the people that I'm not going to name because I don't want to make it seem like in a burial mode, but he was definitely better than some of the people that I'm looking at going, why are they on the roster? But all this craziness that's going on during John Gaborick's watch, I'm sorry, but like, when do you go, okay, it's time to switch it up? Maybe we should kind of like go in this direction. There's a lot of things that TNA is just continuing to do wrong. It really just, you know what it reminds me of? It reminds me basically of getting a nasty cut on your leg, and like it's obvious by looking at the leg, looking at that cut, that it's infected, but you just basically put a band-aid around it and you're like, it'll be okay. But over time that cut gets worse, and you go, well, you know, maybe if I put a bandana around it, yeah, maybe I just need to make sure it's secured real nice and it's in place and no air can really get to it. Maybe if I just get a bandana, that'll help. And then when you go back and you revisit, I don't know, maybe you start noticing the leg is kind of scratching severely, you're in more pain, and you take the bandana off. Oh man, it looks like it's getting worse. I don't understand. Maybe air's continuing to get to it, and then the next thing you know, you put masking tape around it. Next thing you know, the leg is turning all purple, blue, and you broke into a high fever or whatever. And pretty much by the time you get to the hospital, the doctors are like, this leg is severely infected. You're like, oh yeah, I kind of figured that, but I thought well, no, that didn't help. And guess what? We now have to take your leg off because it's too infected. The infection had spread it all throughout. You feel where I'm coming from, folks? That's like, when I use that analogy, that's pretty much what I think of when I think about TNA and the continuation of these problems that they continue to have with some of the poor decisions that they're making. Look, still early. We're not even done with January. We're not even done with this first month of the new year. Hopefully things will change in the coming weeks, going into the coming months. But first impressions right now on Pop TV, not good whatsoever. One thing that I will say, I'm glad that Ethan Carter III is the TNA World Heavyweight Champion again. Honestly, I thought he should have never lost the belt to begin with. To the point, I just think it's a little bit silly that honestly he got the belt back, because it's like, well, if he was going to lose the belt only to get the belt again in just a couple of months, why not leave the belt on him? Yet at the same time, I respect the fact that TNA went with this decision, because honestly, if you've been paying attention to what's been going on with the recent interviews that Jeff Hardy, Matt Hardy have been giving out, they've been showing a little bit more than excitement when it comes to the talk of WWE possibly going back to the company. They both have said respectfully that they would love to come back. It's just a matter of when and if they'll do it, and talking about how they'd love to lock it up with the Dudley boys over there if the timing is right and all of that. And I mean, TNA Wrestling, I have yet to hear anybody say this, but TNA Wrestling, you guys with your respective PR department and all that, y'all got to get some common sense put into play, because you should not have your talent go on to a podcast, radio show, what have you, webcast, what have you. You shouldn't have them go on there. And then, as clear as day, you've got these guys dropping the rival company. That's great if you guys want to acknowledge WWE's existence, but I mean, you guys should know by now, as far as the reciprocation goes, WWE isn't really putting it out there. So it's just weird, because I vividly remember last year when I tried to get an interview with some of the Lucha Underground stars to hype up the first season of Lucha Underground. I remember ultimately I was able to get a hold of Chavo Guerrero, and when we got ready to do that conversation, we actually had a network executive for El Rey that was basically the buffer. She basically had like this conference, and it was basically like a conference number that she gave to me and that she gave to Chavo, and we would call in, and she basically was the moderator, and like any mistakes that me or Chavo had made, she came in, corrected it, and then we had to do a second take with the correct information. Those of you that remember the Chavo Guerrero interview, you know exactly what I'm talking about. And for those of you that don't, it is available on the downloads. It's also on our YouTube channel. Have a look over there when you guys get a moment. So I'm peeping all this out, and I just can't help but say, like, every single time we get these TNA wrestlers, they're being put in a situation where they're asked by, like, it's like a bombard of WWE related questions. It's like, where's the publicist? Where's the buffer to say, hey, look, we're not gonna be talking about WWE? You know, it's like, we want to kind of just stick to why even answer those questions? Seriously, I'm TNA. It's like, no, you go out there, you push my company, you push my brand, you push my day and time, you push my events. This is all I want for you to be talking about, because this is all going on my dime. When you're no longer on my dime, then you could go on ahead and you can talk about whatever you want. But until then, you're still on my dime. This is what you're going to be talking about. Am I right or am I right? I mean, that's the way that it should be going on. Now, I know there's probably going to be some of you guys that may be like, oh, you're just a WWE mark, you're a hater. No, it's called Business 101. As a person that has his own company, own license, LLC company, when I am trying to get the word out about my respected business, the last thing I'm going to be doing is name dropping unless I'm being paid to name drop. It's like, no, I'm just going to promote my fucking business, and that's it. And honestly, there's nothing wrong with that mentality because that's the way that you're supposed to operate. Just picture this. Here's a good analogy for you guys. All right. Just picture you go into McDonald's and you say, oh, hey, how much would it be if I had got a Angus beef Swiss mushroom mozzarella cheese burger with a large order of fries and blah this and blah that, and they tell you the price, you don't like the price, and that McDonald's cashier goes, oh, well, if you go just 3 blocks down, there's the Burger King. They got this really good sale going on where you can get blah 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 for blah 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 blah. You know damn well that McDonald's cashier is gonna get in fucking trouble for name dropping like that. Because she is basically sending that customer to the competitor. And you don't want to be in that type of a position. TNA, like, hello, is anybody, like, I'm telling you, man, there's a lot of things that's like, you're scratching your head and you're like, what the fuck is going on? Didn't mean to talk about TNA for as long as I did there, but as I mentioned, I do like the fact that EC3 is the champion again. Given the circumstances, they had to go that route, especially with what I mentioned of the Hardy Boys. Great route to go. Plus, he's so fucking good. So freaking underrated. I see we got the Cowboy, James Storm, back there. I need more details on what had went wrong, if anything went wrong, with him in the WWE. I thought for sure that was like, he was a lock. That he was going to be there. You got me, guys. You got me with regards to that one.